Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this important session on the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. My name is Karen McLean, and I'm a member of the UCLA Alumni Affairs and Government and Community Relations team. Some housekeeping items before we get started. All participants will be muted. During the presentation, you'll be able to submit questions using menti.com. A link and a code will be posted in the chat shortly. After the presentation, we will attempt to answer as many questions as we can within the time permitted. As a reminder, this meeting is about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, and we will address questions related to that. Now, I would like to introduce you to Monica Sanchez, a UCLA Alumni Association board member and a member of the Alumni Board's Civic Engagement Task Force, who are bringing you tonight's event. Monica?
Hello, can you hear me okay? I think everyone's okay to hear me. Thank you, Karen. As mentioned, I'm alumna, proud Bruin. I graduated in 2011 in education with my doctorate degree, and I'm still hoping to get some loans forgiven or repaid pretty soon. So the purpose, our goal for the event this evening is to, one, empower our UCLA alumni and to be sure that we give our community information about financial literacy. And secondly, we are slated to have a series of these workshops. So this is going to be the first of 3. There's the next session is going to be related to, it's going to be in January of 2023, and it's going to be related to the student loan repayment program. And then third, it's going to be in spring, March or April of 2023, and it's going to be related to the Biden-Harris student loan debt relief program. So that's just a little bit from me today. You'll see more of us in the near future, but I wanted to pass it over now to our wonderful staff, Marvin Smith. He's the executive director of our financial aid and scholarships, and he'll start tonight's program. So thank you very much, Karen, and thank you very much, Marvin, for having me, and we look forward to hearing more information.
All right, thanks, Dr. Sanchez and Karen. I'm gonna share my screen, and hopefully technology works for us today. So can you see my screen? All right, so we're gonna be talking about public service loan forgiveness, and we're also gonna touch on temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. And I have to tell you, it's like alphabet soup keeping up with the Department of Education on their programs. But you know, right off the bat, I want to make it clear that UCLA and UCLA Financial Aid and Scholarships and myself, we're providing information here tonight that's available from a variety of public sources. But the most authoritative source of information is likely your student loan service provider. So this is a session about federal student loans, and you can reach out to your federal student loan servicer or find out who your servicer is. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We thought it was important that we talk as authoritative sources here at UCLA, because I think there's a lot of internet scams, there's a lot of phone calls, spam calls you might get. Public service loan forgiveness is real. And actually, I will share that I have benefited from this program. And we just wanted to spread the news and make sure that all UCLA alumni have the most up-to-date information. And then speaking of up-to-date information, that there's rules that have been extended because of the pandemic to expand public service loan forgiveness and counting payments differently But that application process to get exceptions is Halloween, October 31, 2022. So you really need to act fast if you're going to try to go back and get credit for payments that have already been made on your student loans. Federal student loan service providers have been changing. That's the other thing. So right now there is one federal student loan provider, and that is MOHELA, the Missouri Higher Education Loan Authority. And I just got back from a training and talked to the MOHELA folks. And you can see this on the federal website. They are swamped. They are not able to probably, you're not going to be able to maybe get a hold of them to ask specific questions. So I would encourage you to comb through the federal website at studentaid.gov. And in my preparation for this talk here tonight, I discovered lots of information and FAQs. For example, this temporary change is all due to the HEROES Act. The HEROES Act is a federal law that allows the White House to do things differently in a federal emergency. So we want to just make sure that all UCLA alumni are aware of what's changed and how to take advantage of these changes. So let me talk a little bit about loan service providers. So there's a variety of them. They're all charged with providing information to federal student loan borrowers and collecting on the student loans that maybe you've taken out as an undergraduate or graduate student. The loan service providers are supposed to provide you information on repayment options and will assist with other tasks related to student loans. If there's one message this loan service providers will say is you need to keep your information up to date with them on their websites. And I'll also say, and you're going to maybe hear some complicated stuff here over the next few minutes, but you should never feel like paying for an outside service. I mean, to me, that's a scam. And there's some really good tools that the Department of Education is providing to borrowers that are actually really impressive. And this is not that difficult to apply for public service loan forgiveness. So identifying your loan servicer, you can actually log into the federal student aid website at studentaid.ed.gov, and you need to authenticate the way you did when you maybe filed your FAFSA or completed your master promissory note. If you forget your password, there's ways to get that reset. If you are having any trouble, you can actually call the Student Aid Information Center and find out who your loan service provider is. So this gives you an idea of all the loan service providers. And I will say that anyone that applies for public service loan forgiveness is going to end up having their loans sent to MOHELA. There will be some delays in getting loan forgiveness if your loans are maintained at other loan service providers. But the process that the feds have built out is MOHELA is going to be the one service provider that services loan forgiveness opportunities. So let me backpedal and kind of just give you the basics of public service loan forgiveness. And this is from a federal student aid training that the financial aid officers attend every year. This is last spring, actually last winter. But the PSLF basics is, after 10 years, and 10 years are counted as 120 payments. So if there was a time where you were not making payments on your loans, and it's been 11 years since you started repayment, it's all about the number of qualifying payments that you've made on your federal student loans. And that's federal direct loans. The idea of a public service loan work is you have to work for a qualifying employer while you're making those 120 payments. In my case, I worked for 3 public universities and accumulated 120 public service loan payments. So at the end of this graphic, I will say the forgiven amount is not considered federal taxable income, though we're seeing across the country with talk of other loan forgiveness programs that the states might tax your loan forgiveness, the amount forgiven. So PSLF basics, the eligible loan types are direct loans, which are federal consolidation loans and federal parent plus loans. The types of loans that do not qualify for the original PSLF program are FFEL loans, which is federal family education loans. These are bank loans when the banks were in the federal student loan programs. There's federal Perkins loans, and any other federal or private student loan are not typically eligible for PSLF, except when we're in this crisis pandemic mode. And that's what you need to do by October 31st to get payments counted towards a PSLF with a waiver process. So I do want to clarify on Parent Plus loans. A lot of folks have maybe been borrowing for their children. They are not specifically excluded from being eligible for public service loan forgiveness, but the original public service loan program was that if you signed up for income-driven repayment plan, that would be the plus loan is not eligible for income-driven repayment plans. So the one tip that the feds would say is that there's ways for Parent Plus borrowers to consolidate their debt and access income-driven repayment plans and thus PSLF. I will say you probably won't be able to pull that off by October 31st, but it's worth consulting with your federal loan service provider the pros and cons of consolidating your parent loans for potential forgiveness down the road, maybe interest rate benefits. So just a word to our parent loan borrowers. PSLF basics, it's all about the employer. It's not about the type of work you do. If you feel like you're serving the public at a for-profit company, that doesn't mean you're in public service. The definition of full-time is typically 30 hours a week or equivalent. Government jobs count. Nonprofit organizations count. There's some limited exceptions that actually the federal public service loan forgiveness toolkit will talk to you about. And I'm going to highlight the toolkit here in a bit. But the things that don't count are, part-time employment that doesn't add up to full-time work, volunteer work, working for a for-profit entity or working for a labor union. So again, it's all about the employer. And the feds do say that if you work multiple part-time jobs at different nonprofit employers, that adds up to full-time employment. That can be documented and be counted as public service work. 2020 regulatory change means time spent on religious activities now count towards the full-time employment allocation, must be employed at an eligible employer when forgiveness is granted. So the temporary expanded PSLF, or TEPSLF, provides loan forgiveness to those who do not qualify for PSLF only because some of their qualifying payments were made on non-qualifying plans. So a couple of those plans, and we might need a whole other webinar on the number of payment plans that are out there for your federal student loans, but in particular, extended repayment plan and graduated repayment plan will count if in the 12 months before applying for that temporary expanded PSLF, the borrower payments were at least the amount they would have paid under an income-driven repayment plan. So we have this limited PSLF waiver through 10/31/22. Payments made prior to consolidation are now eligible on a temporary basis. No matter the loan program, whether it was the bank loan program or the Perkins loan program or the direct loan program, no matter the repayment plan. So even if you're in a graduated repayment plan, which I was there for a while, where you had lower payments at the beginning and larger payments at the end, there's a temporary waiver that provides that type of benefit to you. And really, no matter the loan type, direct loan, bank loan, Perkins, the Parent Plus loan we've talked about, there's an exception for Parent Plus. What hasn't changed is the employment requirements must have been employed full-time with a qualifying employer when the payments were made, and then borrowers must act now. So just want to emphasize that again, that you need to act here in the next week. That does not mean, let me clarify, that public service loan forgiveness is going away after October 31st. Just this limited PSLF waiver. But there's still going to be a public service loan forgiveness program. Let's say that you're in year 5 of working in a public service loan forgiveness job, that you don't have that same rush. You're going to need to make 5 more years of payments, up to 120 payments on your loans. Let me talk about this PSLF help tool. To me, this is really slick. And if you've ever done your own taxes and gone to TurboTax or some type of H&R Block, I think, has online tax services, the tool asks you a series of questions and you fill out, you answer the questions, and at the end of you've answered all these questions, it will actually create the PSLF application that you need to submit to MOHELA. So it is pretty straightforward. The one thing I will say that is going to be tricky for folks that are trying to beat this October 31st deadline is you do need to get verification from your employer of the dates of employment. So this is built into the PSLF help tool navigation. The feds do say that you could print out an application and complete it, just like a federal tax return. You could print out one of those and complete it, but they highly recommend you use the PSL help tool to decide or to complete the application, and it prompts you to figure out if you're going to be eligible or not. So if you go onto the studentaid.gov website, you can find this. And when you say learn more about the PSLF program to see whether you might qualify, again, you're going to go to this toolkit and complete the tool, and it's going to tell you whether you're going to qualify. What I wouldn't recommend is you complete an application, a paper application, and just mail it in, because then you might never know whether you're going to qualify or not. This is one problem maybe of the PSLF tool. Just want to make you aware that you're going to have to authenticate. You're going to have to sign in to be able to use the tool. So you will have to go back. As I said, you might not remember, but you probably have a FAFSA ID and password, and you can go out on the federal website and get reminded of that, but you will have to sign in and be authenticated with your federal student aid ID and password. So let me summarize here what the PSLF requirements are waived. And this is maybe a little bit of a repeat, but I think I want to summarize this. So normal PSLF requirements, again, PSLF is not going away, but there's changes through October 31st. In the past, or in the current program, you can only receive credit on payments on direct loans. Right now, you can get credit for payments on bank loans. The FFEL is the Federal Family Education Loan Program. So you might remember them called Stafford loans. They might have been through a bank or a credit union when you were in school. The Federal Perkins Loan is a campus-based program where UCLA would have lended money, and you repay a loan service provider that UCLA works with. Normal PSLF requirements, you repay, the repayment only counts under standard 10-year repayment plan, where it's 10 years and they divide up your payments equally and you make that payment, or you sign up for an income-driven repayment that is tied to your income. And when you do that, you're required to submit your tax return annually to see what your payment is going to be. So with this temporary change, periods of repayment under any plan count. Periods of repayment on loans before consolidation, even if on the wrong payment plan, count. Work full time is still required for a qualifying employer in order to receive credit. That really doesn't change. Must work for a qualifying employer at the time of the application and forgiveness. And then if you've got teacher loan forgiveness, the period of service that led to your eligibility cannot also count towards PSLF. There's another word for that, is you can't double dip. But during this time right now, you can double dip. You can get teacher loan forgiveness and public service loan forgiveness. So, and you can get forgiveness even if not employed or not employed by a qualifying employer at the time of application and forgiveness, which is a very nice benefit right now. So let's say you have worked for, or you've stopped working after giving your life to a public service company, you know, a nonprofit company. You can go back and get credit for those 120 payments. So again, this is why it's important you take advantage of this temporary situation. This is just reminding you again of the unchanged requirements, and I think that really repeats what was said at on the last slide. So I don't think I'm going to go through those again, but this again, the PSLF program is not going away, and these rules remain unchanged. So I want to make sure that you know where to get help, and you can go to studentaid.gov and find these links. As I talked about, the PSLF help tool is going to help you apply, help you even see if you can qualify to apply. MOHELA is the one loan service provider for PSLF loans. There is a whole article on how to take advantage of the PSLF waiver by October 31 that answers a lot of Q&As. And it's really what I would recommend you do if I get stumped with any questions here today. I'm probably going to be looking through the federal website's Q&A because they have done a really good job of answering a lot of obscure questions. And then this last bullet, and I don't think I highlighted this, is when you're going and trying to provide information about your employers, you're probably going to need to go back to your W-2 and look up your employee identification number. That's how the feds share information about you. It's tied to your social security number and your employment identification number. So that's all got to match up. And you want to make sure not to make a mistake on that, or that will delay or prohibit qualifying those payments when you're at a nonprofit organization. So let me see if I want to show you a couple more things. So this just gives you an idea of the PSLF waiver offers to get close to loan forgiveness, and it talks about the tool and the take action, and there's common questions and reminds folks of the waiver. The other site that I would mention is the MOHELA website, which provides good information on similar to the federal website. I will tell you that when we talked to MOHELA about their overwhelming receipt of applications, we all said, well, do you want borrowers to send this certified mail so they can prove that they mailed it by the October 31st deadline? What they recommended is faxing the information. And when you fax the information, you have a proof of fax when it goes in. So that was directly from the MOHELA folks, is faxing might be the preferred method if you're up against a deadline and you're trying to document that you've done something by October 31st. So, and then I think I brought up this, the who's my loan servicer, all these are links and with phone numbers if you ever get confused on who your loan service provider is. So with that, I think there's probably time for questions. Use the menti.com site on your browser or phone and enter this code. And I think that some questions have come in already. And so let me see if I can go through the chat and find out if I can read these to you and then see if I can process them. So, all right, let me read this. So question, I have an undergrad direct loans that are paid off and grad school direct loans that I hope can be forgiven. My undergrad payments aren't counted towards the 120 qualifying payments, correct? Yeah, because a loan that's been paid off, I don't believe can count towards forgiveness. So it's only 120 qualifying payments towards loans that are outstanding. That would be my understanding. Again, the caveat is I am not your loan service provider, but that's how I would interpret that. Question, I am not happy with MOHELA. They are not as interested in helping us. How can I get out of their umbrella? You can't. They are the loan service provider for the federal government. They're under contract with the federal government. And there's really not a way for you to go do something different if you are seeking federal loan forgiveness. I mean, there are ways, and I would never recommend this, of you going and consolidating in a private loan product. Private loan products aren't providing forgiveness. So I understand your frustration. I want to defend MOHELA a little bit in that they are dealing with pandemic employment challenges. They are overwhelmed. And I just want to emphasize that. So I think it's up to you as a borrower to get your application in and document what you've been doing. And on the federal website, it will say you're not necessarily going to get forgiveness even by January or February. It could take longer than that. And here we're going to be starting repayment in January. You should continue to make payments on your loan once loan repayment starts. If you for whatever reason you can't, I think you can seek a forbearance if you're unable to make payments. But I will tell you, and this happened to me, if you make payments beyond the forgiveness amount, you will get a refund. That is so let's say that you've made payments 121, 122, 123. They're calculating that and sending you money back, doing more than just forgiveness. Okay, next question. Does someone qualify for PSLF if someone worked 2 years for public government entity 10 years ago, but now works in the private sector? So yes, those 2 years count. And I would fill out an application for, if I were you, to get those payments while you were employed for a nonprofit to count, because you may choose to go back to a private, a public service job or government job. And you want those 24 payments, for example, that you made for 2 years to count towards the 120 to get loan forgiveness if you aren't going to repay those. Does PSLF apply if you're a public servant and have Parent Plus loans? When you say public servant, again, it's working for a nonprofit government agency, and that Parent Plus loan is a little bit tricky. So what I described earlier is if you consolidated your Parent Plus loans, there might be the slim chance that you could receive some loan forgiveness on a consolidation loan. I'm not sure I would recommend that. I would talk to your loan service provider about that option and confirm that before you do that. Is Navient a federal student loan provider? They used to be. Let me see, but I think they're out of the business. I think that many of these loan service providers are just working on private loan products and servicing private loan products. Your initial PSLF was denied as my loan was with Navient and not considered a direct loan. So I consolidated again with MOHELA. My app is in process. Do I get credit for the Navient payments? So I think you're going to have to talk to your loan service provider about that, because when you say that your loans were with Navient and not considered a direct loan, then in my mind, that means they were a private loan. So when you say you consolidate again with MOHELA, I don't know how MOHELA is taking on a private loan. So that one is a tricky question, and I want you to contact MOHELA and Navient. Again, private loan products are not eligible for public service loan forgiveness. Do Direct Plus loans for graduate students qualify for PSLF? Yes, those are considered direct loans. So I should have been more clear on that. Parent Plus loans are different than Grad Plus loans, from my understanding. If I was in school and deferred my payments for a couple of years, do they qualify? It is not clear to me. So the time when you're not making payments don't count. But the clock starts ticking again when you're making payments. So that doesn't mean that, you know, if you made payments for 5 years, took a couple years off, came back and made payments for 5 years, you couldn't get loan forgiveness if your loans are deferred. Question, can you submit the temporary PSLF and then consolidate your loans? Or do you have to do it before? In my mind, I would wait to consolidate your loans until you hear whether you're going to be eligible for public service loan forgiveness. I would also talk to your loan service provider. And then we're getting a couple questions about a topic that that is on everybody's mind, and I wasn't going to talk about it a whole lot, but borrowers should also be applying for federal student loan forgiveness right now. It is a simple application process. Borrowers could be eligible for up to $10,000 of loan forgiveness. If they were Pell Grant recipients, they could be eligible for up to $20,000. And I would not wait to submit an application for that. And that is all over the federal website. And from talking to colleagues at our National Financial Aid Association, they are hearing that some students might receive forgiveness as early as this weekend. So they're moving fast on that, and I would not wait. So I just wanted to make that clear. I've got a question. I'm wondering when I might receive a response from MOHELA, as I submitted it in early September. I think MOHELA, again, is managing a application volume that's huge. There's a good chance you won't hear till the end of the year, whether you've satisfied all requirements and filled out the form correctly. So, and the MOHELA folks told us at this conference they would not recommend you complete another application to make sure that they got it. That in their mind, that would just possibly delay the processing the original application. I have my own graduate student loans, and I'm also a co-signer for my cousin's undergraduate student loans. How do I serve these two commitments where I wish to only pay my loans towards the PSLF? So the co-signer situation is an interesting question. I don't believe that a co-signer can receive loan forgiveness, but I think you're going to have to work with your loan service provider and make sure that the loans on your cousin's co-signed loans are being managed separately. Question, I've worked at 5 different public universities within the 10 years of repayment. Does the signed form have to be received by each institution by the 10/31 deadline, or will the app do? I had that exact question, and I searched on the federal site, and it says that the application has to be signed by all those 5 employers. From experience, I can tell you that that public universities are getting inundated by these requests. So I would act tonight if you're going to try to get those institutions to respond to you and sign off on your employment record. Who can I reach out to about teacher loan forgiveness support? I have worked in Title I schools for 10 years and it's submitted 3 times, and all times it gets kicked back with no explanation. I would contact your loan service provider and see what it's going to take. I don't think I have it here in the slide deck, but there's a federal student loan ombudsman that you can talk to about problems with your loan service, that might be one piece of advice. On studentaid.gov announcements, it talks about 12 or more months of consecutive forbearance or 36 or more months of cumulative forbearance, you will receive PSLF credit. I didn't know that. And again, that I think would be talking to your loan service provider, studying the federal website. I did not think forbearance counted as successful payment, but these are different times when we're talking about a pandemic and maybe more liberal interpretations of what can be done to provide borrowers relief during an economic crisis. What if you made 120 payments while at a nonprofit but are currently in a for-profit employer? Are you eligible for PSLF? I think as we were talking here today, you have a temporary window to qualify right now, but you need to do that by August 30 or October 31st. There is an exception. Let's see if I can find that. That's our understanding of what's on the website. I have Nelnet as my service provider. Do I send this to them and they forward to Mohila, or send the app directly to Mohila? My understanding is you send the app to Mohila directly. And I think that when you complete that public service loan forgiveness tool, it's gonna print out at the end the mailing address or the fax number for Mohila. Mohila is going to work behind the scenes to get your loan reassigned to them from Nelnet. That's my understanding. What parent plus loans qualify and what ones don't? There is one very old parent family loan still a little to pay off. My dad has worked in nonprofit full-time for 36 years. I would tell him to definitely apply for loan forgiveness. That's different than public service loan forgiveness. So parent plus loans are part of the new federal loan forgiveness program. They're not necessarily part of the public service loan forgiveness program. And I would have him contact his service provider to look at the pros and cons of consolidating and try to get that done. But again, the federal loan forgiveness is going to be $10,000, up to $10,000. So, and Karen, please let me know if we're running out of time, or if you want to stop me. I'm just going to keep going until you tell me I shouldn't. So, my understanding is that the programs only apply to payments after 2007. In my case, I have made a portion of my qualifying 120 payments prior to 2007. Is that correct? This is a temporary period of time where you're going to get credit for the payments prior to 2007. Okay. So again, that's if you still have an outstanding balance that could be forgiven. If I worked for a nonprofit for 20 hours a week for 6 months, would I be able to get credit if I submitted a certification as 3 months of work at full time? I don't believe so. Not the way I'm reading the regs. You can certainly talk to Mohila if you can get a hold of them, but I don't think you can try to create part-time work and justify it as full-time, a condensed time frame, if I'm understanding your question. Am I eligible if I work for a nonprofit outside the USA? That's a good question. I think we had a slide on this. It would depend on that employer's tax status. So you're going to probably have to do some research on that. I can't give you an authoritative answer. I sent my PSLF app and got a delivery confirmation. Is there a way to know Mohila is processing the application? I would say no, there's not a way to do that. I wish there was. They wish there was. It would, if they had some type of self-service that you could go in and see the application is received, but they don't have that right now. Should I submit the application for the PSLF or the Biden forgiveness option enough? It depends on how much you're expecting to maybe receive in the Biden forgiveness option. So it's up to $10,000 for families that make a certain income threshold. I don't have that in front of me. It's on the website. Up to $20,000 for if you received a Pell Grant in your undergraduate career. You might not have to do both, but if you have more than $10,000 that gets forgiven or that needs to be forgiven, and there's and you never received a Pell Grant, then there might be a value of doing both. I would also say just to I might even backpedal on this. I'm not for sure that the Biden forgiveness plan is not going to get stopped by a court order or an election. So the PSLF program, I think, is in the statute. I think it's supported in bipartisan effort. So I might recommend you go ahead and do both. I'm waiting for the consolidation of my FFELP loans into a direct loan to complete. Should I submit my signed PSLF application form now or wait for the consolidation to complete? I would contact your loan service provider. That's a tricky question, and I don't think you can do that, but I would talk to them. How do you calculate full-time status for adjunct professors? I think the feds just defined full-time employment as 30 hours or more, with there's some exceptions. I would go through the PSLF toolkit to see if that question is addressed, and search the federal website to see if there's an FAQ on that.
Marvin,
yes, Karen.
We can take one more question and then we'll wrap it up here.
Yes, and there's a question as whether I can share the slides, and I don't know if we have a way to send them. I can tell you that everything I did for this slide deck is on studentaid.gov website. So I think it's pretty easy to navigate, and I would encourage you to go to that site and click on some of those places that I talked about. So studentaid.gov. Under the regular PSLF, do you have to submit a yearly certification that we're still employed in the same place? That is recommended. I have to tell you, I didn't do that because I don't think it's required, but it's recommended by the feds to do that yearly certification of employment. I think it keeps your records up to date with your loan service provider, with MOHELA. So I think that's recommended. Could you repeat the answer about teachers working at different institutions? In my case, will not add to 30 hours. Should I still ask each college for a PSLF form? I would search the federal website, search the FAQs, see if 30 hours is required to be considered full-time employment. I think it is. But I don't want to give you the wrong answer, so I'm going to tell you to search the federal website. So, Karen.
Yes.
I think that's it.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Marvin. Appreciate the wonderful presentation and your willingness to answer some questions. We thank all of you again for joining us for this session on the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. We are recording this session, so it will appear on the alumni YouTube channel when it's available. We would like to thank the UCLA Alumni Association Board of Directors and the Civic Engagement Task Force for producing this event, And we would like to thank our partners, UCLA Financial Aid and Scholarships and UCLA and Government and Community Relations. As I said, the recording will be posted on the UCLA Alumni YouTube channel when it's available. Thank you so very much. Good night and go Bruins.